Welcome to the Circle Investor Real Estate Training Course.
This is your crash course on everything we think you should know before buying your first rental property in Indianapolis.
On today's course, we talk about
Owning one investment property can be a lot harder in many ways than owning like 5 to 10 or even like 20 plus, assuming that you do your scaling right. Welcome back to another episode. This is episode 11 of the Circle Investor Real Estate Training Course. I'm your host, Ryan Rominger. I've got Stuart Smith here with me as well. Today, we're going to be getting into scaling your portfolio. It's exciting. You've closed on your first investment property. That's awesome. But then how do you scale? How do you get to 5 units, 10 units, 20 plus units? Oftentimes it's scaling where a lot of investors get stuck. I would compare it to being like almost like in the woods, not realizing that like if you just go over the next hill, like it's smooth sailing, but you're like stuck in the woods and you're like, I want to leave the woods and I want to like turn back around. Owning one investment property can be a lot harder in many ways than owning like 5 to 10 or even like 20 plus. But that is assuming that you do your scaling right. So that's what we're going to talk about today. And we're going to kind of identify what the pain points might be, whether that's just time, money, fear, or a combination of the three, and just kind of dive into each of those.
So there's a shift that happens with investors. Shifting from like you own one property to owning 5 or 10 can be very similar or it can be very different. So treat your first deal as a learning experience. Get the right team in place. One thing I want you to go into, because I know you have a very systematic mindset when it comes to investing. So building the right systems, making sure that it works for one property can be the same as 5 or 10 or even 20 properties.
So a lot of this kind of comes down to same discipline we've talked about in past episodes, being very just disciplined in what you think of as a good deal. When you find a good deal, pull the trigger. Like don't be like sort of trigger shy. Like if it makes sense, it makes sense. Go for it. If it doesn't make sense, don't go for it. You know, don't try to talk yourself into a bad deal. Don't try to talk yourself out of a good deal. And I've met people that struggle with both of those things. So yeah, I think when it comes to scaling, it is about building up systems so that you're not just, oh, I'm a real estate investor. I have this like one random rental property that I own, I guess, to actually having a mindset of I'm operating a business. I am a business operator, and my business is real estate. That really has to be the mindset shift that almost makes it impossible not to scale.
Having the capital, having the deal flow, whether that's like through an agent on your team or that's like just being tapped into the market, and having the right systems in place is really everything. Let's say you have those three. When should you buy your next rental property?
In terms of the timing of all of it, I've worked with people that are buying multiple properties at one time. Some of this is just going to come down to the constraints of your team. It's going to come down to your own time constraints. It's going to come down to the constraints of your financing, your financial resources. Not all of us are blessed with a large endowment of millions of dollars to invest. If that's you, that's wonderful. I think my contact information is somewhere on here. Reach out, please. But if you're operating in cash, that can be a big advantage to cash is you don't necessarily have to wait until you're ready to buy the next deal. Like you are financially ready to do it. If cash is not a limiting factor or capital is not a limiting factor, then it could just be deal flow that is the limiting factor. You might just need somebody who's sourcing deals for you and doing a better job of that, of kind of helping you, whether that's finding deals on the MLS and honing down the searches, the search results to find stuff that's really in your buy box so that you could just buy one deal after another. It's just different ways of finding deals off market, whether that's doing like direct to seller marketing, A lot of people, when they get to a certain scale, they start doing that, and that's just because they can't find enough deals that match what they're trying to do just on the MLS.
So let's go a little bit deeper into the pillars that I mentioned previously. Capital, whether you're saving, recycling, or raising capital, that deal flow that you just alluded to, and then obviously the systems to allow the scaling to happen.
Yeah. So yeah, when it comes to capital, and again, like, maybe watch some of our other videos if you haven't bought your first investment property. I'm going to say that early on. A lot of this stuff you shouldn't be worrying about if you haven't bought your first one yet. But maybe after you've bought your first one or two rental properties, it is a good idea to start having scaling in mind, and kind of thinking about, how can I keep my funds working for me? So sometimes approaches like the BRRRR method can really help with that. If you're buying properties you can add value to, and then refinance and get most of the money you originally put in, you can get it back out. That's something that gets referred to as like recycling capital. You could keep using the same, let's say you've just got 100,000 in your bank account. You can keep using the same 100,000 over and over and over again and use it to get 10 deals under your belt, 10 properties added to your rental portfolio. Maybe those are all duplexes, and now you've got 20 units that you're working with. Sometimes people get into raising capital. Once you get 3 or 4 deals under your belt, you could produce the tenant ledgers and be like, hey, these are, I'm making $1,500 a month on this property that costs me $1,100 a month to hold. If you go and show that to enough friends and family members, some of them might want to, they're like, how can I be a part of this? So it's something that can kind of actually happens organically for a lot of investors, but it's certainly something that you can encourage. You can start raising capital and get either short-term or long-term loans, that, like to our last episode of like private money. You can raise capital that way. And then you can do like joint ventures. I've done them. There are pros and cons to them for sure. I'd say, like, if you're going to partner on buying a property, you guys need to be really aligned. Is this a long-term hold? Is this, are we flipping properties? What are we doing? But if you're really aligned with another investor, I mean, you guys can combine your resources, and it's a lot easier to come up with a $50,000 down payment if you only have to come up with 25, because you can share the burden of maybe start a joint venture with somebody else.
So finally on this topic, so when we say building systems, obviously, like, we'll get into building the right team, whether that's the whole team or a joint venture team. But when we say building systems, we're talking specifically about who's going to be the operator, who's going to be the asset manager. Are you going to hire a property management team, and how does the financial tracking and reporting work with that? How does the maintenance process work? Is there a portal that your tenants might have access to where they can submit work orders? And if you hire a property manager, do they have in-house maintenance? Is it a pass-through expense? Like, these are all factors that go into the system equation. Yeah.
When you own a rental property, you kind of have to think of yourself as like you're the CEO. You are the owner of that property. You're the owner of that property's business. And if you get to a certain scale, you could certainly hire like a W-2 employee to maybe work as your assistant, doing a lot of the things. But more often, the way people scale is once, especially once they get past like 1 or 2 units, it starts to become essential to bring in a team. And so that team's usually going to be comprised of your property manager, your agent, different contractors, general contractors you like to work with, or they could be specialized in trades, a lender, like whoever you're working with on the financial piece. And so, like, you could think of these contract, companies. This is your team in the market. There's so many different nuances to what each one of them does. We could probably do a whole one of these courses on each one. And I know we already have done one on agents and property managers. Those are, in terms of choosing the right property manager, choosing the right agent, you can go back and watch those videos. But just from a scaling standpoint, I think it's worth saying that it's really important that all of those elements work well together. That balls aren't being dropped from like the handoff between the lender and the agent, or the agent and the contractor. Say you're buying a distressed property, your next step is a large renovation. Now you've closed on the property, the agent, presumably has the code to the lockbox. How are they getting connected to the contractor to like get the contractor access and get it? So that's kind of your job, is to make sure that all of the pieces work together as the investor, and then the property manager as well. Sometimes, like if you work at a good scale and you have a great property manager, your property manager can not only be the ones to help you lease and manage the property long term, like your property manager can kind of be the glue between all the other stuff, like the handoff from the agent to the contractor, or hey, this tenant just moved out and the unit needs to be turned. Okay, maybe it was you knew you were buying this property that was distressed, and it had an inherited tenant that you were never sure was going to move out. They move out, and now like this property needs like a $50,000 renovation. So you're going to have to bring in a general contractor, and you knew that going in, hopefully, that you're going to have this big renovation. But that's where your property manager can really kind of just they're probably not going to manage the renovation for you, but they will help connect the dots with the contractor that is.
Yeah, to borrow a phrase from a previous guest, have your aces in their places, right?
Totally.
You can absolutely scale by yourself, but having a solid team makes it much easier and potentially quicker. Mm-hmm. So what are some common mistakes you see with people trying to scale their portfolio from 1 to 5 or 1 to 20, whatever their goals are?
I will say that it often comes down to, we mentioned at the top, like that time, money, and fear. It usually comes down to one of those three. I would say more often than not, it's one of the first two. It's time or it's money. Either they just have their money tied up in other investments, or they're on harder times personally, just stuff, life comes up and, hey, I'm just not in a position to invest right now. That's okay. That happens. So sometimes it's just a money question. And then sometimes it's a time question, or it's like, hey, I've got all the money that I need to invest in real estate if I want to. I just don't have the time to like analyze deals. I'm also raising my hand on that one. Like I'm sure my portfolio could be a lot bigger than it is if I would just invest the time in putting some thought into it, and maybe doing some of the things. Like I feel like I'm going through this training, and I'm practically talking to myself in this. Like this is the part of the sort of real estate investment journey that I'm on, is like how can I scale more efficiently? And a lot of it is finding ways to optimize your time. And so like a lot of those things we mentioned, your agent, your team, your agent, your property manager, contractors, lenders, like how effective your team is can really do a good job of helping you get your time back. Because that's where I think a lot of people struggle, is they either have an ineffective team or they don't have a team and they're just trying to do it all themselves. That happens a lot when people own like one rental property, they rent it out, to a friend, or they're just doing everything themselves with this rental property, and they haven't put thought into kind of getting their time back, so that outside of even their 9-to-5 job, they're not spending a bunch of their time on management and operation of the rental property, and at the cost of potentially finding other deals and continuing to scale.
What is a good path, whether if you could outline the time or the specific strategy for how someone can scale. Let's say their plan is to go from one deal on year one to they want 5 units in 5 years. Like, what's a realistic path someone can take?
Yeah. I don't think that it's unrealistic to do 3 or 4 deals a year. If you're, assuming you have the capital to do it. And I'm talking about like sort of fairly turnkey deals that cash flow. Although I think that's also true of the BRRRR method. But all of this is so contingent upon having a good team. Because if you have a bad team, I think you're going to struggle with one deal, and then feeling good, within the next year of doing another one.
Yeah, stabilize. Keep your deals. Keep your rental property stabilized. That's going to help a lot, right?
Yeah.
Not making hasty decisions. Like, as an operator on the property management side of things, for us, I see a lot of new client leads that come in. They made a hasty decision and they hired the wrong property manager to begin with, and now they're giving us a call because they tried to rush a tenant in and ignored some red flags, and now they're dealing with a tenant or a potential eviction or a tenant that's just not paying rent. So be calculated when you're building your systems.
Yeah, absolutely. That can. I think that the scaling piece of it is really maybe the part that gets underestimated the most in terms of the cost you're paying if you are hiring an ineffective property manager, if you're moving in an unqualified tenant. Not only is there going to be a financial loss there, just think about the time and energy it's going to take from you just dealing with that. And that's time and energy that you could have been putting into finding the next one. Because that's what presumably you could be doing if you had bought a property in a way that within a month or two, like you had that thing totally stabilized and you could be pretty hands off. Like I have several properties in my portfolio right now. Like I honestly don't think about them. Because I know I have like a property manager on our team that's taking care of stuff, and I pretty much I hear when the tenant's going to renew, or I hear when we have a vacancy coming up, and what they're doing to to lease the property again, but and then they let me know when small maintenance items come up here and there, but I know these properties are solid from a mechanical standpoint. So it's like if you put that work in on your due diligence of the property in the first place and your due diligence of the team that you're hiring.
Yeah, absolutely. Having a stable portfolio, whether it's one or multiple units, makes scaling so much more possible and so much easier. And that is, of course, like intentional scaling, right? Like no one has deals just falling in their lap. So be intentional as you scale. And if you're looking to scale, if you're looking to grow your portfolio here in Indianapolis, reach out to us. Reach out to the Circle Investor. Reach out to Intrigue Real Estate and Property Management.
Yeah, 100%. If you learned something from today's course, please give us a 5-star review on Spotify and like the episode, and subscribe on YouTube. That really helps us out.
If you think someone you know could benefit from the things you've heard today, please share it with them.
You can check out our full library of episodes and courses wherever you get your podcasts. If you have any suggestions for future topics, please shoot us an email at thecircleinvestorpod@gmail.com.
That's it for today, but join us next time on the Circle Investor Real Estate Training Course.